Hello, everybody. My name is Ulfgarður, and welcome back to World Building Wednesdays. I apologize for the delay. I had a couple things that I needed to patch up between uh, starting the warm up and actually being here with you. So it's been a day of weird, sudden things, but fortunately, none of them are importantly horrendously pressing. So we're good to carry on. Thank you for being here. It is, if you are here not quite aware of what you're here for, and what we do on Wednesdays anymore on my new weekly schedule. Wednesdays aren't a Let's Play like we usually do pretty much every other broadcast on Twitch. Excuse me, still clearing out a cough I developed over Christmas because for some reason that's still around. Um, but Wednesdays are something very different. Instead of playing a video game, we are world building. And if you don't know what that is, uh, this is an audacious example to even remotely compare myself to, but I'm going to do it for simplicity's sake. World building would be J.R.R. Tolkien creating Middle Earth, coming up with all the intricacies and the cultures, the idiosyncrasies of each place, and the histories of Middle Earth as a setting. Not even necessarily writing the books and working on the plots, but just developing the rich environment that that have so much lore even though the books never take place there. uh like we the parts you never see in either of his book series. um so again, that's a high and mighty example I really can't compare myself to, but I think that's the best way because uh I have created a fictional world for my friends and I to play tabletop role-playing games in, specifically 5th edition. um I'm hesitant these days anymore to say specifically the name of the game, but if you're familiar with this entire genre of pastimes, 5e should be enough to give you an idea, just since there's been some weird stuff with third-party content of any kind and licensing things. From what I hear, I think it's more or less resolved in a good way, but I don't know. I'm not super keen on that, so I'm still trying to be kind of conservative about it for now. But my friends and I have been playing games in this world for 7 years or so, and I'm still building the world out. There's a lot of details that I want to have done, and part of that is not just for gameplay's sake, but I want to write a book series about things that happen in this place. Just even if we never roll another set of die to play the game, and even if I never write another word in my book series that takes place here, I still very much just love fleshing out this world as a hobby, as a passion project. People seem to enjoy hearing about it, so I've started trying to integrate working on it a little bit in stream and being able to work on some of the brainstorming aspects with you guys, because I know a lot of you are similar fantasy and or tabletop and or just story appreciating people. So that's what we're going to do. The last couple times we did this, we came up with the details to a city called Summerstone. And the city, I already had a decent idea of some stuff with it. So some of our potential results were going to be stuff that I may have needed to override, but it ended up with some fun surprises that very little needed to be changed from what was randomly determined. And you guys helped me come up with some really fun integrations between things that seemed like they shouldn't necessarily go together, um, as well as come up with some plot hooks for people who are in there, for some of my players, because that is a location some of them have gotten to recently. And so today we did the broad spectrum of the city, like under under what circumstances was it founded? What's happened sort of in some of its history? What are the districts like? So today we're going to zoom in a little bit further and we're going to look at creating a couple places of business because specifically this is usually how I like to do city construction in general is get the details for the whole place and then figure out where are characters, whether they're in the book or at the table rolling dice with friends. Um, Sorry, you can't hear the music, but I can still hear it. It's muted, and it just took a very funky change. Here, hold on. Just this is not the last couple of things we were hearing. Um, but that's what it is. It's called Lungs by Glow Machine. Cool. Uh, just threw me through a loop. But so what I like to do is do the city as a whole first, and then zoom into the places people are most likely to encounter. And generally, in these sorts of settings, especially if you're playing Fifth Edition, that's usually shops and inns slash taverns. Some people include taverns and inns as the same thing. Um, if you want to go more historically accurate, because that's who I am as a person, but I don't judge people who don't, um, at least in some aspects. But taverns and inns weren't the same thing in most cases. So I like separating them, and then if a place is both combined, that's perfectly cool. But they're separate sort of services to be had. So that's what we're going to work on today. Is working on coming up with some places of business for specifically the city of Summerstone, since commerce is so.
Most impressive.
Thank you, Della. I'm not sure which one is most impressive, but I can hear the blurps today. Yesterday I couldn't, so I'm glad to know we got that fixed. Um, but yeah, I admit I'm not quite as prepared as I had wanted to be as far as having things pulled up ahead of time. So bear with me. I need to pull a couple of things up for you. And for me too, I guess, just to be able to see everything that I want. Um, since I kind of got sidelined. Oh, all of it? All of it? Okay. Then bear with me. I'll if you weren't here, if you haven't caught other the oh, you're currently breeding the things? Nice. Very nice. I don't know if you saw Della, but I did hop on before people were on this morning and make my way home. And sorry, if you're not part of our ARC server, this is going to make no sense. It has nothing to do with our world building. But just in case you went back to Sanctuary, Della, and saw that Einar wasn't there, that's okay. I took him home. Don't think he died. He's taken care of. It's all good. He's hitched back home where he's supposed to be. All right. That said, let me find where my files are for my books that we're going to be using today. Somewhere in here. Good to know. Yeah, I realized I didn't message that to you when I was done this morning, like I should have. Uh, just so you didn't get in there and immediately get concerned. Where on earth? Oh, that's why I'm in the wrong Google Drive. Sorry, I don't like having my Google Drive up on screen because I have a lot of personal stuff um, outside of just what we're talking about.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Oh, that's right.
Mine is an evil laugh. Now die!
Oh no! Oh god! Oh, it's so good. God, I love Wash. Ah, fuck. Okay. Da-da-da. Okay, where are my things and or my stuff? We want. There we go. Here's a couple of them. Why can't I open you in a new page? Because that's what I really want to do. Okay, well, we're going to start with shops. So, fine. Sorry. Stuff's being a little finicky with me, so we're going to try this a different way. Because I was going to try and use my Google Drive so I don't have to switch back and forth all the time, but it looks like that's going to be fussy. So we're just doing it in PDF form, which is acceptable. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, so I hope this isn't a thing people would be upset with me handling this way. God damn it. How is it that this dude always calls me when I'm streaming? I'm sorry, it's my Hey delivery guy, so I need to take this call specifically because he's probably coming to pick up some money. So bear with me. I'll put you on the video highlights until I'm back. It's it's always he picks this time to do it. So sorry. Oh,
Oh, he knows I'm here. Ha ha! Well, I stunned him with a locker.
Well, that was a situation that I watched unfold.
Shit.
Yeah, I'm getting pulled off hook now.
Okay. Good, good, good.
Wow.
Wait, is that a phone? Look at the performance.
Okay, I'm back. Hello again. Uh, he is on his way. I'm gonna need to uh, pop out of here in probably 15 minutes or so just to run outside real quick and give him a little bit of dinero. But after that, we should be in the clear. We should be all set. So, let me get my settings so you can actually see the book we're working in. Because I hope that this isn't like a, oh no, thank you, Pez. I'm happy to be back. Yeah, I hope this isn't going to be a sort of, if they find out that I'm showing their book on stream, they're grumpy about it because you guys didn't buy it. I don't think they would be, but that's what I'm going to do anyway. So, um, let's see. That's the one we want. We'll see if it'll pop up. Maybe. Is it there? Yes, it is. So this is Loresmith's Ultimate Guide to Remarkable Shops and Their Wares. They have a couple really, really cool books in the clear, unless I call you. I suppose so, Pez. I suppose so. Um, but Loresmith makes some really, really fun stuff. Um, they make sort of third-party 5e uh, sort of content and tools for mostly for DMs. Like they have remarkable shops in their wares, which we're going to be working with today to help develop some cool shops that have a little bit of personality. They have remarkable inns and their patrons, I think is the name, um, where it's the same thing but just focused on the more tavern inn side of things. They have stuff for like menus and coming up with fun drinks and bartenders and stuff. But they also have a really cool. It's They only have the first installment of the series, but it's going to come out being um, a wilderness exploration series. So it's not remarkable, but it might just be Expeditions is the name of the series. Um, but it's like Expeditions Forest is the one they have now, but it's all about making travel between point A to point B more interesting. Whether that's you stay on the road and you never veer off, there's still ways to do that to incorporate. So it's not just like fast travel where you describe a little bit of the setting and that's it. Suddenly it's 2 weeks later, but actually giving you things to work with. Wondrous Expeditions. Thank you, Pez. That's exactly it. Wondrous Expeditions. And then the one that's out now is Forest. Up next, they're going to have at least two or three more. I think I saw Mountains might be the next one. But we did a whole wilderness expedition uh, based on their forest and expedition mechanics that was a lot of fun. Granted, it was largely in the mountains, and that book isn't out yet, so I kind of had to improvise. But there's some really cool ways to make just an excursion into wilderness an entire little campaign of its own, set up with its own sorts of unique challenges and mechanics to push players and make them cognizant of things like resources and weather. Lots of really cool stuff. So I like Loresmith's books from what I've seen so far. Um, so yeah, so we are working on shops today. So they have some pre-made shops, and we're not going to mess with that just because that's their stuff, that's their intellectual property. I'm not gonna be stealing any of that. But what I like about this too is they even have a section here that's for if your players want to operate their own store, how you can come up with all sorts of things for that, including how to determine if it actually makes money, what complications are there. Um, but we're going to be looking more at creating your own shop, creating some custom items, maybe not, but coming up with some of the staff is always fun for me. So that's more what we're going to be doing today. Bringing your shops to life is going to be in here too. It's pretty slick. I have a great time with it. So let me find the right page. And you guys, once again, probably won't be seeing the notes I take, just because I don't want to have to keep switching back and forth between stuff. And I think this book is more pretty to look at than the stuff I'm typing in. But I suppose just to give you a peek at what some of my notes here look like, um, I'll go ahead and show you, just because I like seeing how other writers, DMs, whatever, come up with this sort of stuff and how they organize their notes. So I want you to be able to see real quick. Go on, Streamlabs, pick it up, see the screen. I don't wanna. Okay, do I have to have it like that? Pez, your player, taking sneaky notes on all the info. Go ahead, Pez, go ahead. Nothing here's gonna be too crazy. There might be a fun NPC secret or two in here, but it doesn't want to let you guys see this. Unfortunate. Maybe that's why. Come on. And if this doesn't work, I won't fiddle with it forever. I was really hoping it would let you guys see what the note side of things looks like, but it might not. Okay, well, we'll just stick you on the book for now. And if anybody actually wants to see what my side of things with my notes looks like, I can put that in our Discord server for you. All right, now Streamlabs, do you want to cooperate this time? Maybe? There it is. Okay, cool. So now it's working. I'll only be able to listen until the end of lunch, unfortunately. I may learn no secrets. Oh, shucks, Pez, you have no edge over the other players. Or me. Thank you, Pez, for putting up the Discord link. I regularly forget to do that. Okay, so so we're going to start with bringing your shops to life, which is page 42. This might not actually take us to page 42. Oh god. Okay, let's not be that zoomed in. That's probably a little bit better. There we go. And I'm not going to read this word for word, but sort of the first little section here is determining the general sort of atmosphere and the conditions of the shop itself. So like the store's individual wealth level, regardless of what the rest of the settlement is around it. Like we're building in Summerstone, the wealthiest city in the world. It is possible to have a squalid store, like that just doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have a lot of really nice stuff. But that's important to know because when players walk into that place and they want to buy stuff, that affects the prices they pay. So these are good things to know. So like squalid is half the normal price, common would be whatever's listed in the 5e book. If you want to go into all this, I'm not probably going to make an inventory today. There are ways, I know there are places online you can look up to generate a shop inventory, and I found some fun ones that I like, but I don't think I ever bookmarked them. So I probably won't go searching for those today unless we make enough progress, because I'll at least get all of this other information first. Um, but So it has notes on like if you have poor establishments, having fakes and forgeries in there because that is going to be a lot more likely to happen. So a chance of bad wares, like that, all this stuff affects on random tables. Like I really like the amount of detail that goes into these. It's much like the Spectacular Settlements book that we use to flesh out Summerstone and find out all that we came up with for it. There's just a wonderful amount of depth that multiple minds have come together to create to help give these things more life than, okay, you walk into a shop and it's just like every other shop except they sell a different kind of thing. Like it's a level of detail that I appreciate, and it's stuff that is consistent in their system that I would never think to make, especially not to make consistent when I'm designing these if I were doing it entirely on my own devices. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so let's see. Our first thing to do then is I think we're going to wait on a name. Yeah, I think we're going to wait on a name. So let's go. Those of you in chat, if you would like, go ahead and roll a die. Just it's just a command like you would, like Pez used for pulling up the Discord link. It's just exclamation point roll, and then this will be a d6. So exclamation point roll 1d6. I don't believe there's a space, but I'll pull it up just to check. If anybody wants to, otherwise I'll roll it myself, but I like letting you guys do it if you want to. Dang, that didn't work. So it might need to be, or maybe it's just roll d6. Okay, yes. So there's no one. It's just roll d6. All one thing. There's no space. There's just take the one out of your first attempt, Pez. And as long as it's not a 6, we're good. A 1. All right. Um, so that gives us a squalid store. Womp womp. Well, no. I mean, that's not bad, Pez, because there is a place in Summerstone where you could find a squalid store, and I know exactly where it is. So this is already interesting because we have the most wealthy city in the world, where if you're in almost every part of the city, in or outside the walls, you're surrounded by opulence, by people that literally have silver and gold thread woven into their clothes. And that's just how people dress there. But we're coming up with a place that's not only squalid in wealth, but has a decent chance of having fake stuff. That is something I would have never thought. So, hey, things are cheap. Um, let's see. Imports, that's not going to be a thing. So it's all going to be local, which is also fun. So let me, it's going to take me longer to make notes of this stuff than it did last time, probably, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. Okay. And then we'll come back and do NPCs later. Because the way my notes are laid out, some of the first things to put in on any new shop section is who the owner is. And Noelle is going to go there. Noelle might well go there, I believe it, if she can find it. Because I don't think anything necessarily says this has to be an upfront open shop. This could be like a black market shop. I mean, granted, it probably wouldn't be squalid, but... Okay, fakes and forgeries. Let's see. I think that's going to be more of a while people are there, I'll roll. Or when I come up with the inventory list, I'll do some random rolls with a 60% chance of anything in there being fake or bad. But poor establishment effects. So let's see if we can get a D20. So just exclamation point roll D20. All one thing. There might be a cooldown. I've done my best to turn it off, but for some reason Stream Element still says there needs to be one. It's kind of like the stream delay. I don't try to have there be a big one, but there always is one no matter what I do. So yeah, if anybody wants to do a D20, we can work with that too. Oh, look at the little sheepies. They're the little black-faced, black-socked sheepies. I like them. Fun fact, more for probably Pez, because I assume Della knows this. And if any of you else present are in our ARC community server or have watched, the sheep in ARC, one of our mods has a skin you can put on the sheep that make them look like sort of an old world black-faced sheep, more like this, but more floof on it, and it's very cute. My last roll probably lunch is nearing its end. Okay, Pez rolled a 9. Oh, okay, that's kind of a funky one that doesn't quite fit Summerstone. I think I can go with the first half of it, though. I can go with the first half of it. That works. Okay, phone made a noise, but it's not the hey guy. Yeah, okay, alright. We'll make a note of that. Okay. Um, did I set a timer for the hay delivery? I did not because I don't actually know specifically how long it's going to take him to get here. Sometime it's within like a variable window. Sometimes it's within 10 minutes of what it should be. Sometimes it's a little bit later, but I did tell him to shoot me a text when he's here since I'll be with headphones on. So as and my phone is turned up so even through my headphones I can hear it. So I just need to run out, give him money, and then I'll be done. What does it say? Text too tiny to read. Um, Essentially, Pez, it says that you can't be in there for a super long time without something happening. I'm gonna wait. I, I'm gonna wait for more because it might affect how you do things in there. Um, so I'm not gonna say what too long is or what happens if you're in there for too long. I gotcha. I know it's easy to get hyper focused on this stuff. Yeah, Della, you know me. You know me. Okay, so we have that. So, and all of these sorts of things are things I'm going to consider when it comes time to naming the shop. But I have a hard time coming up with names out of the blue. It's a lot easier for me to figure out the store first, and then we have a sense of its personality, kind of come up with a name that seems to fit. That's just reading on alternate currencies. So, like, you know, if you don't have money, maybe depending on where you are, how wealthy the place is or is not, maybe they're more open to bartering for fur or, just regular commodity stuff, maybe even livestock, which this place honestly probably would be instead of, most of the shops in town are probably not going to be very into bartering. They're just going to want actual money because they expect wealthy people to have actual money. Okay, shopkeeper's influence. So, how important is this shopkeeper in the local community or broader? Okay, gotta get back to work. Thank you for the lurk, Pez. Hopefully, work goes okay for you today. Thanks for hanging out and helping with some rolls. Alright, we need 5. Okay. I forgot to pull up my roller. It's here somewhere. There it is. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I forgot to pull this up, but I like having it for you guys to be able to see what's being done here. Okay, and that is gonna be, we'll do a D5, which is weird. There's no actual D5 really, uh, but oh, I can't do a D5. Okay, so it'll just be a D6 then. Okay, make sure I have my viewers on for it so I can see. All right, what do we get? What do we get? A 4. All right, what do we have for influence with a 4? That is going to be worldwide influence. This person is known worldwide, even though they run an incredibly poor shop. I think I know how that can work. Based on some other things we determined about Summerstone previously. And Pez is lurking. I don't know if she's actually still listening, so I'm not going to say it yet until I'm certain she's not. But we'll come back and I'll revisit this with you guys. So let me make a note. Alright, because this is the authority section we just rolled. Yeah. This is interesting. I like where this is going. Okay. Okay. And with that, my hay guy is here, so I'm going to pop outside real quick. And I'm probably going to go ahead and take a bathroom break while we're at it. Just nip all the going away in the bud now. So bear with me. I'll turn on video highlights for you since that passes time a little bit better. And we'll be back in probably like 5 to 10 minutes. So sorry for the delay. After that, we should be smooth sailing. Oh, Oh, he knows I'm here. Haha! Well, I stunned him with a locker.
Well, that was a situation that I watched unfold.
Shit.
Okay, I'm getting pulled off hook now.
Okay.
Shit.
Good, good, good.
Everyone, I'd like to raise a toast to that classic Ritz cracker taste and a crunchy toasted chip.
Ritz Toasted Chips. The crunchy chips, only from Ritz.
Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who will do them for you so you can do not taxes.
Need that in my life.
Hell yeah. No, Calvin, it is creepy looking. It is dumb and it is unsettling.
I don't care how good they are, you will never see me use one of them in these games.
Hey Della, can you just do me a favor and confirm for Calvin how unsettling it is to watch a Brachiosaurus be a biped?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I personally like the little like strut that they got going. It's really awkward. Like me. But
But it is unsettling, especially when you don't realize they can do it. And you just see it happening in the distance because your significant other is just walking around, just like not a care in the world on this giant white Brachiosaurus, and you just see its head creeping across the horizon, and you're like, that's not moving normally. What is wrong?
I'm trying to look over the edge and it's not going well.
I see purple crystals. Oh, bye.
Oh
You,
no! Oh no! No! Well, I almost died.
you survived that?
Okay.
Hot damn, dude. Do you want me to bring your dinosaur down to you?
This is not great.
All the cuddles.
Apologize in advance. I'm walking Petrie around.
Okay, thank you for the heads up. Oh no, you're walking Petrie around, aren't you? God damn it.
You walk, Petrie. You do it. Hey guys, I just
Yeah.
got a very expensive dermis.
Oh no.
What'd you get? Oh, a rock drake.
No, an albino alpha wyvern.
Ooh,
Ooh.
hell yeah.
It landed in the snow and now it regrets it.
I'm gonna leave Petrie like this.
Yeah, that's fair. I still have an ash to hatch, by the way. Alright, well, I'm gonna have to find me one of those at some point. Not today, necessarily, unless they show up naturally. Oh god, Pez! Della?
What?
Pez is doing something different, and it is horrible.
What?
Do you not see Pez right there in the ceiling?
On the bed.
She is? Did you put her on the bed?
No, she ghosted up there by herself. Yes, I put her up on the bed.
Okay, well, I don't see her on the bed. I see her as sticking through the floor.
Oh.
Yeah, look at my stream. Look at my stream and tell me what that looks like. It looks like she just got like the
Oh my
exorcisted
God.
up onto the ceiling.
This now makes sense as to why you had the reaction that you did.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
I had nothing. I was like,
I'm coming. I'm not missing out on the slug race. I'm crouched, ready to go. On your marks. Get set. I think that was go.
yeah, it was.
Oh no, I think I'm gonna lose. I think I'm losing slug race. Oh, I might be ahead of Michaela. Oh god. Oh god, Calvin's got it. Nice. What a start to the night. Oh. We can watch birds. I can't. And now we wait? Is that... What is that? Okay. Oh! The man is gone. That's a shame. I was gonna help him become a bird. Do I just have to sit here? I'm gonna sit here while I drink something. We'll see if anything happens or if the game's just trolling us. Holy shit! Y'all see the size of that fucking pigeon? Like, fuck, the thing was massive! We have a kaiju pigeon in the redwoods. Who'd have thunk it?
By the way, fingerprints. You didn't hear me.
Oh. Hi, Ghosty Goo. No, thank you. Were you getting that too, Pez? Was that actually just you?
Just breathing.
Good God. No, that really sounded like the game. That really sounded like the fucking game. Good work, but also, damn it.
Filing a simple return for free with the help of a TurboTax expert?
Feels pretty good.
See if you qualify at TurboTax.com.
When you order a Big Mac in the McDonald's app today, you'll earn points you can redeem for a free Big Mac in your future. Future you says, thanks. Earn free food with the app.
Oh. Well, hello there, officer. What? Wait, what is this? Are you trying to... What is happening? Are you being assaulted? Are you hiding from me? Good, you should. Ha-ha! Officer, you didn't see anything. This is a game you just kind of have to roll with the punches for. Oh, I believe it. I believe it, Calvin. Come here, officer. You're my friend now.
I don't know anyone in this
Woohoo! Officer, I tried running up the window. Officer, we're gonna commit crimes. Ready? You are my accomplice. Y'all saw it. Video evidence. That wasn't me. I was literally in the building. I had nothing to do with that. It was just my aura of chaos. That's one way of breaking and entering. You saw it, Calvin. I did nothing. I walked in the door with my new friend, Officer Jenny, and that was it.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Oh well, make the most of it. Hiya! Come on, Jenny. Jenny, what are you... Oh, I'm on fire. Neat. Okay, that one was me. Credit where it's due. That one was all me. Wait, Jenny, where... Why did you leave? Come on, we're not done here. There's so much crime to be had. Do you just headbutt anything in here and it burns in? It starts burning? Hi, Hoban, are you coming for chaos also? Does anyone smell cooked meat? Yeah, right? You killed an officer, then blew up the gas station, Wolf. That's at least 1 hour jail time. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It does feel a little warm. It's kind of toasting. It's kind of toasty. You feel better, Jenny? All right. Hey, look, I'm Jenny. Hoo-doo-doo. Hoo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I get toasty when there's a fire around. Who no? Oh no, stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll, Officer Jenny. Come on. Ha! Come on, minion. Hey, no, no, no. I worked hard to witness this accidental fire. You bastard. Excuse you? You guys are a much bigger liability than I am. Like, fuck. Oh, they have their names on the screen. You're not Jenny. Where's Jenny? You're not my Jenny, are you? You are Jenny. Okay. All right. Come on, Jenny. Jenny, you literally just do this. I worked hard to witness this accidental fire. Words of someone who caused the fire. She doesn't take direction very well. Licked burning Sergeant Grayson. Ooh! Mm-hmm. Alright, up to the cabin. I'm not... Well, Della, I'm gonna turn it off now that you said so. Son of a bitch!
You're gonna turn off your flashlight.
Yeah, lesson learned. Ooh! Found him! Aha! He's been GPS'd. Zippy bastard. Alright, lesson learned. I will keep the flashlight on, and I will listen to Della. Okay, sorry for the delay. I have returned. I will turn the music back on. The dog has finished her separation anxiety issues. Because even for the short amount of time I was outside, she, normally if I'm going out without her, I just put her up, put her in her crate. But since I was just popping out there for what was just going to be a minute or two, I assumed that was fine enough, because it usually is, but also she has really bad separation anxiety, so I'm not horribly surprised to find that I came back inside and she got into the trash can. Granted, to her credit, she only pulled out 2 things. She didn't even knock the whole thing over. She just pulled out 2 things, realized she wasn't supposed to do it, collected herself, and stopped. She didn't even chew them up. She pulled them out, left them on the floor, and went away and stood by her crate, which is her safe space. So she went over there because she knew that she was going to be in trouble. And so she's learning. She's learning, and that's the important thing. I'm very proud of you, puppy dog. You're a good girl. She's very good. Sorry, I just got a Facebook message pop up that was a fun announcement from one of my friends. Just absolutely out of nowhere, guys, I got a cow. Granted, she lives on a farm, so that's not like, it's not like she lives in suburbia and suddenly she has a cow and everything's just completely off kilter. But that's not an animal she had before, and she is one of the sort that is definitely the I'm gonna go to the store to get, you know, to get some ground beef and that's it, and then comes home with like a dozen freshly hatched baby chicks from Tyson's. Like, that's the kind of farm friend she is. That's also my godson's mom, so it's just we enthuse her, and I have that same issue of just I want all the animals. Okay, but so I think Pez is probably not listening. If you are Pez, just cover your ears real quick. But so what I'm thinking here with this result that we got of this person is known worldwide, but they run an extremely poor store, like absolutely squalid store. Summerstone, we determined, has, I mean, we've already, we went into it before Summerstone was created. It existed already conceptually in my world as being the wealthiest city in existence. That wasn't a thing that was necessarily determined by our work in our World Building Wednesday series. But so we made sure that other stuff kind of coincided with that. I didn't have to redo a lot. I wanted the challenge of trying to justify how certain roles connected with the wealthiest city in the world, even if it meant they weren't necessarily on the same scale. But one of the things also established about Summerstone was that it has really great law enforcement. Like in a medieval fantasy setting, especially in a place like Summerstone, that the nation of Gareland, where Summerstone is located, doesn't use magic. Like they distrust and dislike almost all forms of magic, with very few exceptions. Um, and so without magic or modern technology, our idea of investigating crime after the fact is extremely limited and not common. Usually a city guard is there as a deterrent. They're not there to solve a crime after the fact, unless it's very obvious. And there are spells in 5e or in most other fantasy settings that you could use to help, solve a crime. Like there are spells in the game that you can pick up an object and see some of the most recent things that that object has been a part of, as far as like interactions between people or whatnot. So like a weapon left at a murder scene, you could look and possibly see who used it, or at least who it belonged to. Um, but Summerstone doesn't have that technology or that magic, so they are one of the things that helps people in Summerstone feel safe, because we determined people there feel incredibly safe in their day-to-day life with all of their wealth, is they have very good law enforcement, including a sort of investigative department of the City Watch where that is their entire purpose, is to solve things after the fact. So very developed, very well funded, well equipped, well trained law enforcement personnel. But it was also determined that Summerstone has a lot of, or parts of Summerstone have a lot of intense crime. And I forget what the phrasing was in the book, but the way it was phrased, I had it that it wasn't necessarily that there's a lot of it, but where there is crime, it's more scaled up, it's more intense or more brutal. So you're not just going to get punched over the head and knocked out to be mugged. You're going to get stabbed if you're getting mugged. You're going to be violently attacked. If somebody breaks into your house, they're not just doing it to steal one thing. They're going to ransack the house. They might kill anybody inside, or at least severely wound them, and they're going to do it to steal a lot of stuff that's worth a lot of money, not just one or two things, and get out. Or like art theft that's worth a shitload of money. It's not just going to be like the one vase that's worth a little bit extra. Like big scale, even though it's not necessarily always super frequent. But one of the other things we determined was that there is a secret organized crime element to the city. Where it's secret in that there's really no even suspicion by anybody outside of that organized crime, out of that crime organization. Nobody outside of it suspects that there even is one. And I think this guy's involved with it. That's why he's known worldwide. He's known worldwide if you're a criminal. Maybe gal, I don't know. Maybe non-binary person, I don't know. I say guy as a default. But whoever the owner of this store is, maybe it's not even the owner. Maybe it's just the staff in general, because the authority level is for the shop itself. So I'm thinking maybe this is a black market, sort of a gateway shop into the local black market, because that would work. And what's really fun to me, though, so a little piece of lore about my world. My Evard, you'll hear me refer to Evard. That is the name of the world as a whole. This entire World Building Wednesday series, for the foreseeable future, is going to be World Building Evard specifically. So that's a name to learn. In Evard, I have established, and have for a long time, that there's sort of a global crime organization that's not so much like a mafia, but it's more like LinkedIn, but for criminals, where you have to be a part of it, or you have to be invited into it. You can't like apply, but once you're a part of it, you can go to most major places in the world, and if you know what to look for, you can find a representative, and they can give you supplies, they can give you a safe house, they can give you contracts, um, or to several bigger locations that are like big meetups where you can actually go and interact with other people in person. Think sort of like the Thieves Guild hideout in Skyrim, where you're kind of underneath the city. They have their bar and lounge area, kind of like that. A couple bigger places where you can actually go and interact with other people face to face. And you use aliases. Nobody's supposed to know your real name. That's kind of the whole point. Not the Black Hand. Not the Black Hand, Stella. That also works, actually. I didn't think about that, but I was thinking of the Thieves Guild underneath Riften. The one where you have to pickpocket the guy's ring and then put it in a different merchant's stand so that you essentially frame one of the merchants for stealing to take a competitor out of the picture. So I'm thinking, but that group is called the Ochre Pact. And the way the Ochre Pact works is, I'm sure you probably know this, Della, but if anybody else in chat doesn't, ochre, if you don't know what that is an old color from back when you had to hand dye clothes, ochre was a material you could use to dye items, and it would come out anywhere between like a red, like a rusty red to an orange to a yellow. It was kind of a spectrum, and you could manipulate it a bit to come out to be kind of variable. So ochre wasn't necessarily one color. You could specify with a yellow ochre or whatever, but it could be a couple different things. And so the ochre pact, you can identify it by finding things that are ochre in color that are either out of place or that you see them and it's enough to prompt, hey, I'm going to like say or do something that if you're not part of the pact would seem normal, but if you are part of the pact, you know that I'm connecting with you and wanting to talk business. So like it could be you go to a bar that has ochre paint on the lettering outside on the sign that says this entire establishment is safe to be doing ochre stuff. Like everyone here is in on it. Or it could be just a server at a bar is wearing a red ochre scarf. They might be the only person in that establishment that is in the ochre pact, so they're the only one to deal with. Little things like that, or like painted markings on a barrel out in the street, but the markings are painted with some pigment of ochre as a signal of, hey, check what's in here, it's for you. Stuff like that. So there's that whole thing where they work together, but they're not an organization. It's a lot of individuals that can collaborate together. They have a means of finding a team if they need one for something. Um, and I still want to, I want to put more depth into the Ochre Pact because that's essentially all I have to it. There's a lot more to be done, especially because several of my player characters are affiliated with that faction. And so one or two of these world building series I want to do, I really want to flesh out the Ochre Pact. Because if I ever have another campaign started, I have a friend of mine who really wants to play somebody that's involved with it. So it's something I need to put a little more development into. But I'm thinking that Summerstone's organized crime element is not the Ochre Pact. This is its own local thing. And I am excited to figure out what it is. So that's my thought on this. Because the way I got there in my head is when we determined that there was an organized crime element to the city in our previous series, it was the result we got was it is completely secret. Nobody outside of this organized crime element knows it exists or suspects that it exists. The Ochre Pact is not in one place, and people outside of that one place would know that there is somewhere in Summerstone some way to access Ochre Pact knowledge and resources. So it is outside. It is not fully secret like that. It is a different thing. So I think this is part of that, and I really, really like that. I love that a lot. So maybe still within the Ochre Pact, people know that there's a black market here, but they don't actually know much about who runs it. So that's why this establishment is so well known. Or maybe just because this person is a fence, so they'll buy and sell stolen stuff for a price. And maybe that fence is part of the Ochre Pact, but they're also part of this local crime element that they don't talk about. They are the only way people interact with it. I like that a lot. So they're sort of a connection point. They're like an estuary, which is a whole other concept I can't wait to talk about on this series because estuary means something in my world besides where freshwater and seawater meet. As a teaser for the next time, an estuary is the name of the device I use to narratively describe how magic works in 5e, where things converge, and it's fun. Okay, but moving on, disposition. So how do they feel about people? As an optional gaming rule, each shop can have a disposition towards race, class, and religion, affecting many things like prices, availability of information and services, or hospitality. I like that. I'm not going to go that deep into it now, but I probably will for some of these at some point. Because I find it hard to just do blankets of stuff like that. it's hard for me to say that this one business is just going to be a lot harder to deal with for everybody than the place across the street. Like usually I think there has to be a reason for it, and that gives us insight into the characters that run that shop. I'm not going to get into that now. That's a lot of detail that's going to slow me down. And I go through this slow enough as it is because I am all over the place. But so disposition. Neutral, positive, favored, unwelcoming, or intolerant. That's another 5. 5 seems to be the nice pool number here. Okay. So Della or anybody else in chat, if you want to roll a d6 for me, otherwise I will. I'm happy to do so. Just want to make sure everybody gets the chance to participate if they so choose. A 3. Perfect. Thank you, Della. So a 3, switch back to the screen that you guys can already see. Favored. Characters can become favored through role-playing, for example by saving the shopkeeper from a band of thugs raiding the store as you arrive. What if we do that backwards, though? So Pez's character that she was saying is going to find this place, she probably will. Because Pez's character that's in Summerstone right now, they just arrived in our last session last week. She had wanted to go to this part of town knowing that there would probably be some place like this that's more her people. She's the sort of person that hates wealthy snobs. She wants to absolutely be on the opposite end of the spectrum, so she's looking for this part of town. Where this shop is, she's probably going to find it. And so what if, and most of her party agrees with her, they're not quite so fervently, I'm going to diametrically oppose the established order because I hate it. They'll just like, there tends to be a lot more prejudice and flaw in folks of that society that they've encountered in the past as far as being exclusive, being rude, being entitled, thinking they're invincible and trying to get away with bad things. So they all kind of lean into the underdogs naturally. And so what if when they get in there, this shop is being harassed by law enforcement instead of thugs? What if the thugs in that situation are law enforcement when the party arrives trying to come do like a shakedown or something, being like, we know you have illegal shit here. What if the party comes in and kind of saves them from it, or like helps take some of the heat off? That could be fun. Uh, that could be a lot of fun, and that would definitely get them a friend in the city. They don't know anybody here in all of Summerstone. They've never been here before. And so Pez's character is loosely involved with the Ochre Pact. So like she kind of knows to go look for some element kind of like this, where she's more likely to find Ochre Pact people, or at least similar vein. So this could be fun. And they can send the cops in the wrong direction or make a distraction. Exactly. Exactly, Della. That's what I'm thinking. I like that. I'm going to make a note of this, too. Disposition. Take off my caps lock, because it was on for some reason. Probably the dog. Okay. I like it. I like it, too. I like it, too. See, this is why I love these books, is they give you enough general stuff to start making these sorts of connections, but still connections that are unique. Like if we get favored for another store, but it's like an average year run-of-the-mill place, or maybe even a little bit wealthy, that the things you can do to gain favor are going to be very, very different. And how to set that up as a storyteller, as a DM, is going to be a very different set of circumstances, even though it's just, all right, how can they gain favor? Because it's possible to do so here. The person here is open to making friends. Influencing disposition. Oh. Interesting. Sorry, I want to read this because I don't remember this one. Work to improve disposition through a combination of intelligent role-playing and various beneficial actions. Explaining away differences of opinion, smoothing tensions, flashing ample coin can turn a sour mood into a favorable one, but failing can have consequences. The shopkeeper may not see characters as belonging to a specific clientele worthy. Initial attitude can vary widely. It's up to them to find a way to convince the shopkeeper. The table below presents some ideas on how they can persuade the shopkeeper to see them as worthy of special selection. Okay. So the sort of things they can do to change with a risk of failure being, yeah, bribery, magic, making threats. Okay, that's cool. So that's not a thing we need to make a note of today. It's just important to remember it's there. Which usually this sort of stuff, I feel fairly confident in my ability to make reasonable assessments in the moment during a session. But it's still, I forget that this is here, so it's good to remember. Because I haven't cracked open this book and worked out of it for a while. I haven't done a lot of Evard work in a long while, outside of our Wednesday series we started a couple weeks ago. So it's nice to get back to it. I've missed it a lot, but I had some mental blocks. Some mental blocks on it from a lot of different things, but that's a whole other story. Okay, becoming favored. Don't just pick out characters to dislike. Repeat customers, generous patrons. Roll a random result from the table below or pick one that suits the needs of your story. Becoming favored can have many benefits, both subtle and significant. So what happens if they do become favored? What sort of things can we expect? So that's a d20. Let's roll a d20 and see what happens. I think the cooldown should be good, Della, if you want to roll it again. Again, don't have to. But I like letting you guys determine what happens here. You make the roll, and I'll be the DM. You make the roll, I interpret the results. Just the way it's supposed to be in this game. D20, please. We're looking for positive disposition effects. Which, is this an okay size text for you to read, Della? I know Pez said it was kind of small on her phone. Lower prices for goods and services. So essentially, everything in here is already half price. So you're paying 25% or less. Maybe you even get free stuff. Let's do one more. Let's do one more just for the sake of it. I can read it, but it's a bit blurry. Okay, we can zoom in a bit more. There we go. I'll go ahead and roll another d20. I forgot that it makes you have a cooldown, even though I told it not to. Alright, what did we get? A 7. Okay, much better. Good. I'm glad that's a lot better for you. Okay, 7. Being offered a place to hide and disappear when needed! And a 15. Okay, cool. Let's stack them all together. What do we get? Noticing a wagon being stolen from the shop, if you catch it and return it, the shopkeeper will offer you a share in the day's profits. Oh, all of these are good. I liked it too. Like, what if it's law enforcement has confiscated the wagon? Like, they have an ongoing investigation. Like this is the FBI looking into the mafia, and we're on the side of the mafia here. Just like, we're helping them against the city's law enforcement. I like that a lot. Okay, do I have a way to type over here? Yeah. Gained favored results. Nope, that's the wrong thing. That's fine. Let's see, lower prices, a place to hide. Okay, my formatting's being funky, but that's okay. It's a shop wagon. There we go. I like that a lot. Holy crap, that's fun. That can definitely get interesting. Or even a rival shop or something. Yeah, that could also be fun too, especially like if for some reason one of the wealthier shops has beef with this place. Like, whatever, we haven't determined what sort of shop this is. So depending on what they're selling, maybe there is an upper class rival that doesn't like that they're selling things for so cheap. Granted, a lot of the stuff they're selling for cheap that's also sold in a wealthier place is probably fake or just, lower quality but not easy to tell. So they might just also be trying to shut them down for the sake of competition. I like that too. It could be a mix. Let's mix it up. Just have this place be a source of all sorts of attention. I like it. I like this a lot. Oh, this is fun. Okay, becoming unwanted. What happens if they don't like you? Alright, let's do a D10. Let's see what happens if they piss the shopkeeper off. This party does have a tendency, like many adventuring parties do, to make enemies when they were trying to make friends. They're usually pretty good about it. They're not as bad as my other group of players that I have, but it does happen. 1d10. A 3. A sign on the wall reads, "Humans get out." Oh! 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 There's more to that. Oh my god, that's beautiful. So specifically, we stick to that. It doesn't even matter if it's it doesn't even matter if it's not a human that offends them. If it's humans get out, the party has only 2 humans in it. And both of those humans are, one, elderly. They are adventurers that are both like 70 plus years old humans. One of them is an ex-soldier that's a warlock, and one of them is a monk. She is a drunken master monk, but she's drunken master in the sense that her her monk techniques are deceptive, but instead of stumbling around looking like she's had too much to drink like Jackie Chan, she her deceptive fighting techniques are based on the fact that she plays like she's old. She moves like an old woman and then fucks you up for it. But that's not even the fun part. So this entire setting, the time place in which this campaign that's currently in Summerstone is happening, Gairland is one of 2 huge empires that span almost half of the world that are at war with each other and have been for an incredibly long time. Like, war in varying degrees of intensity, but has never been declared at peace for several thousand years. And they're at what is established to be the end of the war. Like, the players know more or less that they're in some of the latter years. I don't think most of them realize how close they are. Pez does because she plays in the other campaign that came first, so she knows kind of how the war ends. The others don't. But the only 2 humans in the party are from the other empire. Like, it's been determined they are recognized constantly whenever they're in Gairland because they have the accents of somebody from Barret Hold, which is their enemy. So no humans in the party, or humans get out, is also just, it tracks for no Beridians. It kind of reads a similar way, at least in this context. It is excluding specifically the humans in the party, and could be done not because they're human, but because they're Beridian. I mean, it would still be humans get out, because there's not a lot of Beridians to warrant a sign saying Beridians get out. But that's also fun, giving us context into the people who work the shop. None of them can be humans if that's what's on the sign. So, I like that. Okay. I'll make a note of this, too. Sorry, my phone pinged. I want to make sure I didn't, like, short my hey guy or something. Okay, cool. Alright, negative favor results. I like that a lot. That that that's a fun connection. Okay, so we have that. Now let's talk security. Oh, let's do one more. Let's do one more negative. We have 3 positive disposition results. Let's do one more negative. So let's do another D10. A 4. The store owner distrusts you and signals the armed guards to come closer. Okay. All right. All right. But that's not entirely a getting kicked out. That's just the guards are aware every time you're in there. I love how this is all feeding into each other. Yeah, yeah, I do too. And that's one of the cool things I love about these books, like this one, the one we haven't done yet for Taverns and Inns, but also the one for Summerstone with the settlement building specifically. They're they're all vague enough to where you can do these connections, even if it takes a little bit of thinking. But especially the settlements book, that's one of the things it says at the very beginning before you get into developing anything is give it a chance. If it doesn't seem like results can work together, or if they're inconsistent, give it a chance and see how that might work, because that's how you get a lot of those idiosyncrasies that really mimic real life. Because things aren't always smooth and simple and perfect anywhere you go. There's always going to be an exception or an anomaly of some kind or an illogical thing that just is and nobody really knows why it hasn't changed to, conform to whatever else is around it. Like I love it. I love doing that. That's one of my favorite parts of doing this sort of development is finding those things that just make it feel alive. Okay. But now we need security, especially since there is armed security that is going to be aware of people. So there has to be some. Okay, so what sorts of security? A measure of security in place to protect wares. Security from level 1 to 5. Low security means only minimal measures are in place to protect the store, and it's more vulnerable. A wealthy shop can afford to have guards, magical security, and other precautions. Which, even if this is a poor place, we've established this is kind of connected to some organized crime. So they probably don't have to be the ones to pay for security. So even if this is a low number, shit can still probably happens. Shit can still probably happen. Okay, so we need a security level, which is once again out of 5. So a D6. And if we get a 6, I don't know what that means. If that'll just be a reroll or I guess that'll probably just be a reroll. 1. Low security, which just means an event is more likely to happen. It's not necessarily that, uh, you know, that there's not guards. So like here we have unfortunate events are more likely to happen by there's a 75% chance of an event or higher. But then there's, the draw of low security. That's not always a bad thing. Door policies. Yeah. So, okay. Unfortunate events. That's a d20. Let's see what unfortunate events we might be capable of having. We'll just preload one unfortunate event. So when they visit, this might be a thing. 7. It really likes giving you 7 today. Villains try to relieve you of all your clothes and sell you to a slaver nearby. All right, let's re-roll that. Garland doesn't have that. Garland is vehemently opposed in almost everybody's level to supporting that industry. So that wouldn't be a thing that happens. I mean, they can still try and relieve you of your shit, but that wouldn't be what happens. A 19, okay. You overhear 2 men discussing a cargo shipment, and they notice you listening in. Okay, alright. Alright, I like that. I like that. We can work with that. It's a nice an additional story hook if people feel like getting ambitious. Okay, do I have a spot to put some of these? No, because this, damn it, my shop info page here on my OneNote tracker is geared more for ends, and I never went back to change it. I thought I did. It's my template, but that's okay. I can work with it and smooth it out some other time. Robbed of possessions. That's not how you spell possessions. And clothing. Or guess the PC's listening in. Okay, all right. So that's both a consequence possible of being mugged, um, but also a little side quest hook if they feel like doing that, or maybe they feel like stopping or whatever cargo shipment is coming in, whether they want to steal it or they just don't want it to go through. They disrupt it, or they can make sure that it happens if they can figure out what it is and they want to make friends. That could be a way to gain favor with the shopkeeper. If it is one of the shopkeeper's shipments, they could make sure it comes. I like it. It kind of covers all spectrums here. In some of these events, a perception or insight check may be able to give you a head start on a thief entering the shop or a shopkeeper just planning to defraud them. Yep, you could convince the henchman you really are here for cargo delivery or attempt to dissuade the shopkeeper and his bandits from taking your money. Okay, cool. Low security shops can be worth the risk of visiting as they allow a unique experience law-abiding shops may not be able to offer. Exactly. Certain peculiar wares may only be available in that rickety clandestine store or on the black market. Okay, here are some examples of how to roleplay such locations. Okay, a D10. So benefits of a low security store. What can we count on as a low security benefit? A 5. Ooh, a merchant offers you a bounty to bring in a wanted outlaw. Okay, I like that. I like it. Gives the shopkeeper something besides just being a shopkeeper. We've already kind of sort of put our foot in the door to making this shop owner slash shopkeeper a potential quest giver ally. So that's another way to gain favor, but also that doesn't sound like super unique or special in and of itself, except for this is a merchant asking you to deliver an outlaw. This isn't law enforcement, and it's not like they're offering you a bounty to bring in somebody or a wanted rival or someone who has an unpaid tab. Exactly. Yes. So it may not necessarily be a traditional outlaw. It may well could be, but I don't think they would want you to bring them in necessarily because they are an outlaw. They would want you to bring them in because of whatever they did to become an outlaw or something unrelated. Like, they're not doing this for justice. They're doing it because they want their own justice to be had, and it's not the legal sense of the word in the local area. Okay, I like it. All right. Okay. Yeah, this is why I like doing this. I have a lot of fun doing this with you guys when you're involved too. Because it just I love getting different trains of thought on how people interpret these results. Because I mean, I do it my way and I try and keep an open mind, but there's always going to be patterns even within my own thought processes that I can never really pick up on, despite the fact I tend to see patterns somewhat decently. Um, so it's always nice to just, get other perspectives on the same stuff. Door policies. Okay, depending on the security level, some shops enforce door policies. Untouched. Yeah, the security level is as low as it can be. There is no door policy. You enter untouched. Nobody bothers you. Everybody can walk in. Supply and demand. Okay. All right. That's not really a thing for us to determine right now. That'll be more important with when we have inventory. Challenges of supply, trade, yep. Affecting circumstances. Hey, like conflict. Oh. Now that's interesting. Some events that might affect supply and or demand. As far as a particular item is available or more expensive, half what it would usually cost. But there is a guy standing in the corner watching. Ooh. Yes. Yeah. Because, I mean, we did establish there are armed guards. That's in my notes, that there are armed guards there, so they're going to be wary, but they're not going to stop you from coming in because, especially with a place like this, you never know who somebody might be when they walk through the door if they're unknown to you, which normally, everyday life, that's not necessarily a big deal, but especially when you're talking about, like, very powerful and well-established hidden criminal elements, you don't want to offend the wrong person because you never know who they're connected to. So just we've got our eyes on you, but we're not going to impose any rules on you until you deem it necessary. I guess until you make it necessary. So yeah, this is going to be, as far as these events around supply and demand, I might come back to that when we have more of the actual inventory stuff. Fantastical shops and remarkable wares. Yep. Yep. What do we got here? Okay. So what kind of actual shop are we dealing with here? That's what we're about to find out. Let's roll a d20. This is one of our big decisions to be made. A 2. And this might be one we have to re-roll. It depends on what the result says about Summerstone. Librarian. Oh, that tracks so well. Oh my god. Okay. Do we do know that it is an underground type? Yes, yes we do. Old books, scrolls, letters of famous persons. Potential side businesses, lost pages of dangerous grimoires, spell scrolls, and treasure maps. Garland doesn't like magic. And we could say that maybe there is kind of a black market for spell scrolls here. That would make some sense, but that doesn't strike me as what it is. Forbidden grimoires. What I see this as is that maybe that's part of it, but I don't think that's going to be all of it. I guess another thing to note about Evard is Evard doesn't really have necromancy. Like there's a certain spell in 5e where if you cast it on a person that died within the last minute, you revive them. That's as far advanced as necromancy goes in this world. And even that people get really iffy on if they hear that somebody died and had that done to them. But it's kind of like having somebody flatline in a movie and have a defibrillator used on them, where like that's kind of how it is. That's as far as it goes, though. You can't bring somebody back who's been dead for a long time. They're the leading magical institutions in the world look for people pursuing that knowledge and destroy it, both the people and the knowledge. So, like, they're having walking mobile skeletons coming around and attacking villages. That's not a thing. That's just as terrifying for them as a concept as it would be for us to hear that that happened up the road. So that's one of the things, and there are some plot reasons for that that one of the campaigns is just starting to realize. Um, but so when I think grimoires, I think like a lot of necromantic magic or like stuff along those lines. So as cool as it would be, it wouldn't quite fit the world to have that sort of stuff here. But like honestly, even if they were just spell scrolls for like first level spells, maybe even a cantrip. I don't even know if those come in spell scrolls, but maybe they do here. Maybe that's a thing. Oh, maybe that's a forgery thing. Because I don't think you can get a cantrip as a spell scroll, but if you're in a place that has no magic, where they hate magic, that would be a black market item to have spell scrolls. They could try and sell you cantrip scrolls. And that could be one of the fakes that they sell. Because it's not going to work. They might probably have still legitimate first, maybe second level spells at the strongest. Because again, this is a poor place. They're not selling things that are worth that much money. Because even then, a second level spell scroll is still worth a shitload of money. A first level one is. But like, I could see that happening. But the concept of the librarian business, old books, scrolls, letters of famous persons, that makes me laugh. Specifically because when we were determining the city information for Summerstone, 2 of the 4 districts in the city are educational districts. And each educational district, as a default, comes with its own archives in that district, or like library slash archives. And so there's 2 districts in the city that already have this service provided. And one of them, we rolled for extra features or like notable features in the district that aren't included in the by default stuff that it gets. One of them got another library slash archives. And we determined why that is, what that is, and it's actually a whole quest line in and of itself within the city, or at least like a side quest that PCs can choose to investigate. So there's already precedence for having a lot of records here, and having this be sort of the knockoff version slash the sketchy version, I really like. I'm trying to think of what all they would offer. Treasure maps, definitely. But old books, scrolls, letters of famous persons. There's probably a lot of fake letters of famous people. Old books, definitely. Scrolls. I'm trying to think of like why though. Like what the business front, the legitimate side of things here might start out why, but then you have this black market of treasure maps and spell scrolls, and I wonder too if not necessarily like on paper, but still kind of the concept of information that's been recorded. What if this is a place where you might be able to find blackmail material on people? The shopkeeper doesn't use it, but what if they broker information you could use to blackmail wealthy people? And that's sort of part of the ties into the letters from famous persons, or just like information center that is a library, but turned sort of to a criminal standpoint. I think I like that. I'm open to thoughts if anybody has them, but that's I think what I'm going to go with for now. Let me make a note of this. Trying to figure out how to put this in my notes so that I'll understand everything in my brain now, because it is a storm of thought. Okay, old books. Ba 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 ba. Treasure maps. That was the other one I couldn't remember. Okay, cool. I really like how this is turning out to be surprisingly consistent with just sort of the other stuff in the city. Special services. Do they have special services? Oftentimes, a shop that sells a particular variety of product will also offer related services. For example, a blacksmith selling new armor is also likely to repair broken breastplates or stitch a sleeve of a tunic back to the body. Okay. Let's see. Oh. This one I'm not sure if we would roll on it, just because so many of these are not necessarily relevant to a library. Um, but I could see a few of these. So bespoke, I want to read through a few of them. Shops where bespoke designs, where items are created from scratch, are able to work with characters to design a unique item that they desire. Okay, so like custom work. I'm not sure that that would really work here. Lodging, probably not as a whole. Um, this is more like if you have gained favor, you have a place. But I don't think that's going to be a regularly offered side service. Messaging, though, messaging maybe, because I mean, this is a records place, a center of knowledge. Like the shopkeeper is going to be literate. I mean, they have to be to know their business. So I could see them being willing to send messages. Have access to a messenger of some variety, be that an apprentice, a pigeon, an awakened rabbit, a clockwork postman, or a regular postal connection. Characters can use the service to get information across the world quickly and relatively safely. I like that. I do actually have a section. I could see repairs, but specifically, I'm not sure what repairs. Like, what would they repair here, other than books? Because they wouldn't have the equipment to like repair armor or a lot of equipment. I could maybe see some clothing repairs if they do their own book bindings, because old school book binding is essentially a particular form of sewing, as I understand it. But still could maybe work. All right. No, but like an adventure spell books or something. Oh, that's true. That's very true. Good point, Della. Good point. Yeah, so even if like they don't necessarily use magic themselves for the right price, they will fix your spell book up or some other book. Maybe you have a journal. Maybe even arcane ink. That hasn't been a huge thing in this campaign or any of my campaigns really, but I remember with this group, the campaign that we played together before this, Pez was the DM, and one of the players was learning magic as the campaign went along. So part of his whole journey in developing his magical abilities was actively trying to seek out arcane ink and the right kind of paper to make new pages or scrolls for his spell book. I could see something like that too. Maybe that's one of the black market things they sell. Okay, I don't know what that would sell for yet, but so book repair, courier messengers. I think we would have an option for pawning, maybe. Cases where valuable items are to be sold or the party is in urgent need of cash. Many shops operating pawning services where they can find buyers for the items. I'm not. Map restoration. Ooh, there's a good one. I like that. Yeah. Okay. I don't see this as much of a pawning sort of place. Like, yes, it's sort of a hub to a black market, but I don't imagine it would be the sort of place where, well, I guess maybe it would be. Mostly when I think pawning, I think a place that has the ability to just buy something for a lot of money fast. Maybe not all the money that that thing is worth, but still just minimal questions asked. They'll buy it and they'll try and flip it. And we've established this place, like the squalid isn't just the appearance. That is genuinely the store does not have a shitload of money in it. So I don't know that they necessarily have enough money to be able to really pawn effectively. What if they could be like the art restorers in museums? So if they find an almost destroyed grimoire in a dungeon, but couldn't read or really see the text or pages due to the damage, but this person can restore it. Ooh. Della, I think you're onto something there. I like that. I like that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Even if it was like Yeah, boom, mic drop. Yeah, even if it's like, hey, we found this book out in the middle of nowhere. It was like we found some dead army officer's journal. It had been rained on a bunch. There's still ink, but we can't quite tell what it says. Like this person would probably be able to help at least figure that out. Get within reason, without having magic. Um, and even then, that would give some fun room to be able to give the party a lead to go on with whatever that quest might be, but also not have the specifics to tell them exactly what they need to do. Just like I couldn't restore the fine details, but I could get the gist that it mentioned some of these things, and that's enough to steer them without giving them coordinates to a specific place. Because it then causes the party to go in search of someone like this, and then can set them upon the series of quests or whatever you want to do. Yeah, I like that. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Interpretation, translation, not interpretation because that's spoken, but translation. That would be huge because a lot of these old books are probably not all going to be in the same language. So that's probably a service that could be done, is have somebody translate your documents for you. Yeah. Yeah, that would be one. Because I'm a language nerd, so I try and incorporate language into the game and the story. Like people can hear that the two people from Barrett Hold are Beridian by their accents, um, but like trying to impart specifically remembering who speaks what language. For the most part, I don't say out loud unless it's going to be like a long section. I don't say out loud what somebody hears if they're eavesdropping in a language that only they know among the party. I will write it down or I'll type it up and I'll send it to them privately so that they are learning, so that the rest of the party is learning that information from the same source that their characters would be. Just things like that are a little extra. They might slow the game down a little bit, but I find it helps a lot with immersion where you mimic the flow of information and realization as much as possible to what it would be if they were actually in the world. You could start incorporating your languages that you're making too. Oh, I intend to as soon as I have them made. Eventually that's going to happen, probably way sooner than I intended, because I've been fixating on that a lot lately. Originally I was like, I'm going to get over halfway through my book manuscript before I start even thinking about messing with creating language. That's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be sooner than that. Because I've been listening to a lot of really cool stuff lately about linguistics and just in general, like linguistic concepts, but also languages of the world. A book from the guy who has made the languages for Game of Thrones and several other movies and TV shows over the years about like specifically how to create a fictional language from scratch. All that good stuff. So that's probably going to happen soon. I probably won't do all of it on stream, but some of it I probably will once I get at least some of the groundwork up. So we could do some thinking on it, or if nothing else, I could get y'all's thoughts on like how do you think it sounds? How do you think it flows if it has these? Even within a fantasy setting and world building, language is not a thing a lot of people get super stoked about. It can be dry to a lot of people. I am very much a minority that finds that exciting. So I don't know if there would be much interest in that other than you hear me say a couple things and that's it. But that's a whole other issue. We have things to work on now before I stumble further and further away from the task at hand. Okay, repairs we have. Restoration, yep, is there. Let me change one of my notes though. I didn't use the word restoration where I should have. So I want to add that in. Spellcasting, no. Stabling, no. Storytelling. Adventurers who take quests in far-flung parts of the world might return home to discover that they're still just the blacksmith's child. Storytellers, songwriters, poets, dancers, and other performers can listen to the tales of adventure that characters tell and turn them into works of art that capture the imagination of commoners and nobles alike. Before long, these stories spread and characters begin to gain serious renown, which comes with many benefits. Yes. Yep. I did say transcription and translation as well. Um, one thing I've made note of too in here is just like, oh, no, no, no. No, Della, those are both good and applicable. I know to a lot of people they're probably similar. Um, and they sound similar, but they're they're different enough, but they're both very applicable. And if you hadn't said transcription, I wouldn't have remembered to include it. But that's absolutely true. With old books, uh, transcription being um, okay, so we're going to go on a short language journey. I promise it'll be short. If you don't know, if you're in chat, I apologize. I tend to over explain and slash or mansplain, and I don't mean to. I just like people to not be lost when I'm talking about a particular subject. And I try to assume people don't know anything about it so that I'm not leaving them in the dust and making them feel stupid. Transcribe is to write, while translation is to be able to read the language. Yes, translation is changing. So, like, if we have a book in English and we want it to be in Spanish, that's translation because we use the same letters. It's just changing it that way. Transcription would be if we have a book that's in a completely different alphabet, like say Japanese, and we want to be able to read it out, like maybe we even know how to speak Japanese but we don't know how to read it. Transcription would be changing the alphabet that it's in without necessarily changing the language that it's in. It's a weird, like, it's a very specific sort of side branch off of translation, but they are a different function that are both important if you're doing this sort of business. So, yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. And I'm very glad that you mentioned transcription too. Or transcription can also be, I think, there might be another term and I'm getting them mixed up. Can also just be like more or less copying, I think. Like not even like changing anything. I think it might just be copying, like making addition, like, hey, I need to Xerox this, but there's not a Xerox machine, so you have to write 4 copies of it by hand. I don't remember what the word for that is. I might have mixed transcription up. I'm second guessing myself, so I'm never going to know for sure. But that did make me think of just a basic service that this place would have, especially since this is located in the slums. In the slums district. Okay, that is part of transcription too. Thank you. Is just illiteracy services. So say somebody gets a letter but they can't read, they can't write. You bring it here and they will read it to you, and if you want to respond to that letter, you tell them what you want to say and they have somebody in the shop that will write it for you and send it. Yes, because that's what scribes do. I was pretty sure it was the same term for both, but I couldn't remember. But yeah, so like illiteracy reading and writing services, especially in the slums, like, yeah, that would be here. And I think that's it. That also goes with mail delivery. Yep, 100%. 100%. Natural services to go together. And then okay. And then the storyteller, the whole concept of the storyteller here, I really, really like specifically for Garland because of what we're about to get into. So storytelling, what they're essentially saying is, hey, you're adventurers. You don't have your own hype man, but maybe one of you wants to become famous. You want people to know your name. This is who you need. You need to hire somebody who will tell your stories for you so that your adventures, your successes, maybe even your failures become known to a wider audience besides the people that you come across in your journeys or the people that hire you and reap the rewards of your service. Like, this is very important specifically because this person had a name in traditional Scandinavian culture that which is what Garland is based around, is actual real life Viking Age Scandinavia, if you did not know. Um, you need a non-adventuring bard or crier. Exactly. That's what this is getting at, but there's a way that the Vikings and the Scandinavians did this that was unique to them, and anybody who studies that time period specifically, this is an entire category of literature that people still study today. It's hard to replicate, especially in not Old Norse, but it's possible. And it's skaldic poetry. If you've ever heard of the Prose Edda or the Poetic Edda, which are like the two main Scandinavian history quote unquote documents that give us a lot of insight into the mythology and some of the history of that part of the world at that time, those were written in a particular form of poetry called skaldic poetry. It's incredibly complex. There were different forms and styles within skaldic poetry that were complex in a lot of different ways, but part of that's irrelevant. That's going into the poetry specifically. But what was important about this was people would hire skaldic poets to write these poems about their deeds and then send them around the town to tell, or around, the country, around wherever, to tell these poems that they composed on this person's behalf. Or they would just be part of their court, so that when you had a bunch of important guests come in, part of a fancy dignitary dinner would be the poet showing off not just their own skill as a poet, the poems, which were a form of entertainment, but the poems sort of being essentially a hype piece, or in some cases you could very easily say it was a propaganda piece, but just getting your name out to people that don't know it in an entertainment media that was possible uh, and well appreciated culturally at the time. And Garland has skaldic poets. In the other campaign I run, the one that's been running for longer, one of the previous PCs is a skaldic poet bard. So this works wonderfully. Skaldic poetry is its own thing. I'm trying to write a skaldic poem about an event in the other campaign, and I keep getting stuck on it because it is so hard. Skaldic poetry is so hard, but it's so fascinating. Oh, it's cool. I'll go into that some other time. That'll probably be a thing I might try and do on stream, is try and further that poem sometime. Because it doesn't work like we think of poetry in English. It doesn't. It is so much harder. And one of the things that they liked was certain forms of skaldic poetry were supposed to be hard and difficult to understand, because you had what were called, God, I shouldn't be going down this rabbit hole because it's unrelated, but I'm doing it anyway. Um, you had what were called kennings, where a kenning is like an alternate term where it's two words with a that are hyphenated. So like, but it's sort of a weird, it's it's sort of an alternate symbol or an alternate term to refer to something that we know. So uh, like the whale road. Well, it's the road that whales use. That's the sea. Or there's a reference to one of the Nordic gods um, and his ship, but what they're actually referencing is a shield. So there's not a lot known about that figure, so it's assuming that somehow he took a trip floating through the sea on his shield, and so that's why they call it his ship as an alternate term. But they would use these, and sometimes they would use them within another. So like you'd have a kenning that would mean the sea, but you'd have another kenning that would just be the sea is the interpretation of that, but that would just be contained within another one. And it was layers deep of these sorts of, some obvious, some really hard to track metaphors that were meant to be brain teasers. And they were meant to be, if you could understand them, you were intelligent, you were a good poet. A good poet could create these hard to understand things, but in a way that were reasonable, and a bad poet would make hard to understand things that were just dumb and bad. Um, but it's a fascinating thing. I'm going to stop because I'll talk about that for a while, even though that's pretty much my entire understanding of it, except for a couple of specific features of it. Moving on. I'm going to take a quick wellness break before we move. Peculiar potions. We're probably not going to find potions here. Mounts and familiars. We're probably not going to find familiars here. Mount equipment. This isn't exactly the sort of place where you'd find a lot of these things, though it would be fun. All right, let me skip forward. Where's my table here? Outfits and clothing, intoxicating instruments, magic items, planning phase. Okay, here we go. I think this is where we want to go. Oh, this might just be about building your own business. But we're gonna go with it anyway. We're gonna start here, see if there's anything for us, but we're gonna take a break first, and this will be our last break of the stream. I know we had a couple early on that were atypical, so bear with me. But as always, our wellness breaks are wellness breaks. Take care of yourself. Dear Sweet Millie will know if you don't, and there will be consequences if you don't. So don't disappoint Dear Sweet Millie, and we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, welcome back. I hope everybody had a decent wellness break. Uh, we're already probably going to go a little bit longer than I intended to hit a decent stopping point today, but that's okay. I'm not quite as restrained by time in the afternoons as I usually am on most days, so that's alright. So I want to take a moment to fulfill a promise I made on our Discord today, which was to spill some tea, specifically about my goats. You saw them, at least some of them, in the pictures over the break just now. There's been some drama with the goats lately and their social dynamics, and it's been interesting. It's been tiring to deal with, but it's the joys of livestock, especially social livestock, which most of them are anyway. So we had one boy that was raised on a bottle, not by us, we got him after that, but bottle kids behave differently because they don't learn herd dynamics as kids the same way, because they get more used to people as the formative figure in their life. So they never quite fully get the wiring of how to be a goat. And our one that we got was a sweet kid. He was a very slow grower. That's just part of the breed that he is. And he spent time with our boys for a while, our breeding boys, because he's a wether, which is a boy that's been fixed. But we weren't entirely confident that when he got fixed that it took all the way, so he stayed with the boys instead of living in with the girls for a while. And he was at the bottom of the order. He was the smallest. He was the most timid. So he was very bottom of the pecking order. But when we were finally certain that he was all good to move back, we put him back in with the girls and the other wethers. And he really just became that kid that gets bullied in high school and grows up to become an absolute dickwad to everybody. Like, he's sweet to people. He likes the people. And he's not necessarily like super malicious to the other goats outright. But to anybody that's below him on the totem pole, which is quite a few of them, because he established a good place for himself. He was more assertive. He said, "I'm done with that shit." He's a lot more assertive and aggressive about protecting the stuff he wants to protect than many of the others are. And normally that's okay. Like, they're out in the pasture, somebody's eating on the thing he wants to eat, he'll come over, bump him with his head, because that's how goats communicate displeasure, is just headbutt somebody. And that's just how they do it, that's fine. They're made to, just eat that shot and walk it off. It's usually not bad enough to actually hurt anybody other than oh man, that sucks, my bad. And so his name is Skull. And Skull has been a little bit too assertive around the feeders over winter this year. Because him and a couple of the other higher ups have been hoarding the hay racks to themselves, and whenever the lower goats on the totem pole try and go eat out of the hay racks, they drive them away. So those goats are left to either not eat the stuff that's been trampled on the ground, which is a health problem, a really big health problem for goats when they're in a small space like they are confined for winter, or they have to go try and sneak a bite when nobody's looking and then run away. And those goats at the bottom of the totem pole have been getting a little skinny. I didn't realize how bad the problem was until recently, when it was more than just one of them that looked a little skinny. And a couple of them are, and watching more deliberately, that seems to be the problem. So I pulled Skull, like they wouldn't even go near the feeders anymore. Brand new full of hay, they would not leave to go to them. Because the hay feeders are outside of the building they live in. They, for circumstances of our farm, they have to be for now. And they wouldn't even try anymore. They would just go and watch everybody else eat. So I moved Skull back in with the big boys, who he's just as big as any of them now. And suddenly they're willing to go to the feeders again. They're still timid. They're still kind of competing with other people who are bigger and just more assertive than they are. But it's still just like, it was an immediate fix. Partially. But I still have to like coach them and take some of the more assertive ones and scoot them out of the way and stand out there for 20 minutes so the other ones can eat more. And it's just like, man, I never would have thought this would be a thing I have to do. I need to get more feeders as part of it, but I just don't have them yet. And the feeders we have were built by me and my father-in-law. They're not just a thing you can go buy, and I'm not going to go buy one that doesn't work as well. But it's too cold, and I don't have the materials to build another one. So I have to just go stand out there and be like, no, guys, it's not your turn yet. You get your turn all the time. Ugh. Assertive goats. That's the tea that needs spilled / that I need to vent about. This Skull is a jerk. He's sweet to people, but man, he's an asshole to the others. Except a couple that put him in his place, and it's hilarious. The end. Okay, moving on. Back to world building. Alright, looking at planning phase. Typical store types. We don't need to know the building cost. Size matters. Yeah, so this is more, I think, for if a player wants to build, but not necessarily. I don't necessarily need to make note of all of this. Store location, yeah, no, I kind of know a lot of these things. Building phase is definitely the if a player wants to run a store. Structure and location? Yeah, this is fun. This helps us actually describe the setting. So what's this place built out of? Let's see. Let's roll it. Let's roll a d10. We'll see what this place is made of. It's not in an unusual location. We know where that is. Seeing what all those are is kind of out of what we're working with. So if anybody is there and wants to roll a d10, otherwise I'll roll it. And I'll still ramble at you even if you're just lurking. A 4. Okay. Also, Della, how is breeding going? Are you still working on that? Anything fun? Made out of snow and ice. That's a little hard to do. We might need to re-roll that. I mean, it's at the base of the mountains, and it's north, but it's not that far north or in the mountains. I gave up after a bit. Oh no, was it just too much to do? Or were there complications? Were they being difficult? I know I've got an awful lot of growing up to do, not necessarily breeding. Couple of good eggs, though. Nice. Hell yeah. Yeah, I think we might need to re-roll this. Pretty much, unless it's a 4 or a 10, we should be able to make it work. And it's a 4 again. I'm trying to think of how that can work. Since it showed up twice, I'm really determined to try, but I can't come up with it. Okay, lime mortar. That I can work with. It says desert savanna, but I can work with lime mortar. That'll do. That we can do. Unusual locations, irrelevant. Fantasy businesses. It contains a list of suggested business types and the products they sell, from pikes to poultices. Okay, so an antiquarian or a librarian. Old books, scrolls, letters from famous persons. We saw this already. We saw literally this. Maybe it wasn't the same table. Milieu. God, French. Okay, the location of the shop has major effect on what kind of wares and services it's able to offer and customers it attracts. Typical examples, but exceptional results can be the most interesting. Okay, well we already know where this is. This is assuming we're building a store that has no context, I guess. So that's, okay, slum. There we go. That's what we're working with, is a slum. Poor quality wares, yep, we know that. Alternative shop types. And this isn't so much a clan. Looking at alternative shop types, it seems like this is like a business front. Like there's a legitimate business, but it also does stuff behind the scenes. So I think a clandestine establishment isn't necessarily going to be like a hidden back alley nook that you have to find specifically to get there. That doesn't seem like what we've established so far. Oh, hey, look at that. We can generate a name. Okay, let's try generating a name. Roll a random shop name or pick and choose. You can consider combining entries from both random tables into a single elaborate store name. For example, The Last Noble, quality clothing. Alright. Alright, so I'm going to need a series of d20 rolls. Maybe not the middle of this table. So we'll work our way across. We'll try 5 and see what that gets us. We have the traveling. Okay. I'm good with the traveling, even though they don't travel. The traveling, what is 11? What is 11 going to get us? The traveling minstrel. Hey, they offer skaldic poets. That's fine. I'm good with that. Also, especially in the slums, like a traveling minstrel sounds like something fun and exciting and a fun, pleasant break from the day-to-day drudgery of poverty. Okay. The traveling minstrel, and then let's see. I see import. Yeah, import could be. I think let's roll the beginning. We might have to pick the middle to make sure that it's, or re-roll the middle to make sure it's not like clothing, since we're not dealing in clothing. But a couple of these I could see applying, like articles, curio, memento, novelties, oddities, paraphernalia, secrets. All of that could work. All right, 19. We have wholesale. Wholesale secrets. I love it. All right. But wholesale generally also means lower prices, so that also kind of tracks. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, no. We're good. My computer gave me a false error that is actually nothing. All right, let's go ahead and roll the d20, and we'll see if it's something that comes up. Otherwise, I think we'll go with the next nearest thing that works, so we're not doing a ton of re-rolls. Four. Curio. All right, I like it. And then one more to get the end. I'm good with Curio. I also like this as Curio specifically as part of the name of a store that has incredibly low wealth involved with it and is in the slums. Like, it's trying to sound very fancy and elegant, but it's a bunch of dusty old books and illegal shit in the back. 7. What do we got? 7. Emporium. Wholesale Curio Emporium. I love it. It sounds so stupidly hyped up. Somebody's trying so hard to make it sound like way more than it is. I'm for it. Which also kind of fits because, you know, skaldic poets for hire. Also, that's probably another thing they sell is just a shitload of, you know, old poems. Let me make a note of that before I forget. I don't know how I didn't think to consider that. But just like, you know, the idea of taking something and trying to have a service where people deliberately hype something up and try and spread its name around and make it something more than it may or may not actually be. Having a name like this, I very much appreciate to go along with it. Okay, all right, I like it. Good work, Della. That's a solid name. Decorating. Okay, what's the atmosphere like? That's a D10. Well, we'll need a couple of D10s. I see 4 D10s that we're going to want. So we'll need 4 D10 rolls when we can. All right, Della rolled a 3. Chattering voices and or a musty odor. I don't know about chattering voices. That seems kind of anathema to... Even if it's kind of a poor, squalid shop, it's a library / archives. Like, chattering voices seems Like it doesn't quite vibe with it. But musty odor, definitely. That, you know, old book smell. Okay, we've got a... That is not how you spell odor. There is not an E in that word. Come on, Ulf, you know this. Okay, shop condition. We got a 9er. I think, yeah, that's the next D10. For shop condition. The business is good and prices are high. That can't happen here. That doesn't work. I don't think we can just cram that in there and have it be okay. The whole point is it doesn't have wealth and things cost half or less than what they normally would. So maybe we'll swap. Let's see what 4 is. Needs to resort to discounts to attract customers. There we go. Okay, let's do that, and we'll apply the 9 to the next one. And I think that's condition. Lots of discounts. Okay. Okay. I wonder too. So if we go with this place as being sort of like a gateway into like a greater black market sort of thing, I don't imagine the market would be here, but like maybe you have to go in and buy something specific or request something specific in order to be like, okay, this guy will point you in the right direction then. That's not related to this necessarily, but I thought of it by like they're running. They're associated with kind of a backdoor criminal element of some sort, an illegitimate business. So they need to resort to discounts to attract legitimate customers, is what I have in my notes, because they are going to need legitimate customers. Otherwise, they're going to draw more attention from actual investigating law enforcement than they already do. So, okay. 9 gets used on the next one instead, and that is personnel present. 9, shopkeeper with a supernatural creature. Oh. Now that's interesting. For example, a homunculus, golem, automaton, or genie. I'm going to have to think about what there might be in this part of the world for that. Because, like, I have a hard time determining what would be considered supernatural in a fantasy setting. Like, golem, automaton, genie, homunculus, those make sense. But, like, yeah, oh yeah, it absolutely tracks, Della. I agree. I'm just trying to think of what specifically it might be. Maybe once we get a feel for who our staff are, we'll try and determine what that is. What's the term there? The supernatural creature. Okay, all right, I can dig it. Yeah, I'm excited to figure out what this is. That's gonna be fun. And then that was 9-4, and then 1 for furnishings. Filthy, grimy, garbage-filled environment. That tracks. I imagine a lot of loose paper and spilled ink everywhere. And melted candle wax, of course. There's got to be melted candle wax all over a grimy library. Hold on, I gotta plug in my headphones because they're dying on me. That's okay, I got a long plug. Okay. This is good. This is good. Also, these details I really like because they're simple, they're easy to convey quickly to people, but they still help paint a picture very fast of what is this place like that's different from, again, the place across the street if they're in a shopping district, which they're not, but like, you know, shop additions. Ooh, okay, so another D10, please. And then we'll need a D100. Oh my goodness. All of those should be die you can roll in chat. They should all have commands in place. At 2, a cart filled with goods in front of the establishment is a good way to attract customers and thieves. And there is the whole thing we had earlier about a cart getting stolen that could be recovered. So that's perfect. D100 and we get 14. Okay, what do we got for 14? A lattice of metal bars separates the customers from the merchandise. Oh man, that tracks. That tracks so good. Especially too for like all these old volumes of stuff. Like you got to know what you want to go in there or at least have an idea. It can't just be like this isn't a library where you can just go flip through the pages. You're in the slums. They probably don't trust people enough for that. Also, there's a criminal element here. You also don't want to trust people for that reason either. So you have to have the shopkeeper get you what you need. I love that. I like this a lot. I like this a lot. This is a fantastic place that I really, really hope they get to. Yep. Okay, so there's our memorable features. Oh god, there's so many. Okay, creating custom staff. I also have a lot of fun with this. Okay. Um, so we don't have... Well, you know how to get them there. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And one of them, Pez's character, is actively looking for a place kind of like this. So I think it'll definitely be possible. I don't remember. There are a couple other notable features in the slums district we rolled, as far as like places to go and see. And this may or may not actually be one of those. I don't think it is, but still, have them find a map book or scroll that needs to be fixed. Oh, there you go. I have it. Holy shit, I have it. No, I already gave it to him and I didn't even realize it. They looked at a job board recently and there was a really old, like underneath a lot of other pieces of paper things, where Pez noticed a piece of paper that just had like a weird, strange symbol on it. And that was pretty much it, but it was like it maybe could be a logo, but also maybe couldn't. So that might be like some symbol that's on the store. Like maybe it's their actual logo, or maybe it's just something carved artistically into the door or something like that. And that could just be a confirmation. I like them having to find a map or a book or a scroll that needs to be fixed. That could also be good. I just don't know right now. They don't really have any quests that they're working on. So they're just kind of poking around to see what they can do while they're in this city, because they're on their way to somewhere else, but they also don't want to just like breeze through Summerstone. They want to try and do something, make a little bit of money at least. So I'm not sure how I could get them a map, book, or scroll that needs to be fixed, but I will think on that, because I do think that's the best way to get them there, other than you're walking through the streets and you see that symbol that you saw on that piece of paper. Something a little bit more deliberate than that, because that's happenstance that they happen to find it. I want it to be something, I like it when it's agency, something they do that leads them there. So that's a lot better. I like that, Della. Thank you. All right, let's make our shopkeeper. What do we think? All we know about our shopkeeper is they aren't human. because they put up a sign that's no, what is it? All humans get out if people get upset, or have them stumble upon the raid. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That would be good. That'd be good. I kind of forgot that we talked about that already. Yes. Perfect. There's a commotion. Yeah, I like it. And they already are starting to not like the guards in this place. For a couple different interactions they've had. So even if they hear some of the guards inside the walls, if they're like en route to go do a raid, I feel like they might already kind of have a sense that whoever's being raided might need a little bit of somebody to stick up for them. Because, granted, they tried to walk into the city's central keep. Like, what is and should be the most heavily policed area in a fantasy city. Like one of the garrison buildings where everybody in a siege event or as a last line of defense comes here to hold out and make their last stand. They just tried to walk in, and the guards called them out for having Beridians among them, and they didn't have a permit or any reason to be there. So the guards got snippy, and they didn't like that. The guards also got snippy at a band of mercenaries that were from a particular place, because that region has had a lot of recent insurgencies that have been declaring independence from the Garish Empire. And so the guards were picking on these mercenaries, giving them grief. And so they're a band of mercenary clerics that serve a war deity, a war domain deity. Um, and they're from this particular part of the Garish Empire that is renowned for having great troops, and more recently for inciting insurrection and kicking the Empire out. And so these mercenaries are in town, and some of the guards come up and start harassing them while the party's right there, trying to read the same job board this is happening at. And one of the mercenaries looks the guard in the eyes and says, "Are you making up new laws that we're violating because we use magic that you choose not to uh, are you making up new laws that we're in violation of because we use magic that you choose to fear, or is it because we're Matavian even though we weren't in the valley when they were expelling your friends?" And that went over really well. So they already kind of feel like the guards in Summerstone are, by and large, assholes. Some of them are, not all of them are, but they found a lot of the bad ones. So having them come upon some of the guards saying that they're going to go raid a place in the slums, that might be enough for them to kind of follow along too. And even if it's just they hear it then and then they go look in the slums later and see it happening, that's still sort of just like, setting up some pieces along the way. Either way, great ideas. Good call, Della. Good call. I'd already forgotten about having them enter and there's kind of a raid going on. All right, let's figure out our shopkeeper before I keep getting distracted over and over and over again perpetually for the rest of my life. Okay, what does our shopkeeper look like? What's their appearance like? We don't know their species yet. We're going to get to that. An 11. Soft, plump baby face. All right, I can work with that. Let's see. All right, we have a soft, plump baby face. What do we have for their apparel? That's another D20. I think most of these are 20. Eight. Muted. Subdued colors and simple patterns. All right. All right, that works. So far, it all tracks. And these are things that even if they clash, like this person could be dressed in very wealthy clothes. Like, I can justify that. So there's a lot more. This is more a reflection of the person than the business for a lot of these. So I don't feel like there's probably going to be a lot of these that need to be re-rolled because these don't take into account their species or their age, I don't think, most of the time. So that stuff we can still figure on our own. This is just what makes them unique. All right, mannerism. What sort of mannerism do they have? A D20, please. Let's go ahead and do two D20s because we have mannerism and personality. Mannerism. Odious habits. Openly spits on the floor, belches, or farts. I like it. And then a 13. Let me make note of their odious habits. Particularly, I kind of am a fan specifically of spitting on the floor for this one, just because like one, belching or farting is like to some people that's like inherently just fucking gross. Like that that would kind of make some people uncomfortable around a table, I think. Spitting on the floor is just one of those like, ugh, what? Why? Also too like to an extent, belching or farting is a normal bodily function that people have to do, and someone might have a health condition where they can't control it. Nothing to be done about that. But trying to explain that in an NPC like this, you're never going to get to know them that well. So it's just going to, it's just going to portray something. But spitting on the floor is a choice. This person does that because they can. It's not because they have to. And I like that more. Also, I feel like it's one it's not as likely to be comical. It's not going to make them just a goofy gimmicky character. We can absolutely do that. I'm okay with that. But it's less likely to steer it that direction if that's not the direction we want to go or where the dice put us. So, I think specifically spitting on the floor or something similar to that. Maybe like chewing with their mouth open or talking with a mouthful of food. I don't know if those are items on this list, but whatever. Okay, personality 13, enthusiast, eagerly follows any new fads and stocks accordingly. Okay, they do their best. They try their best. I like that a lot. They're just trying so hard to keep their legitimate side of business afloat. Oh no, my music ran out. I like the interrupter. Oh, I like that as a an aspect of making a unique personality, but that is such a huge thing that I hate in real life. I could never bring myself to role play it because even if I specify, guys, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to portray a character that is rude. That still could, if somebody's wired the same way I am about being interrupted, that doesn't matter. It's still going to take fun away from the game. But I agree, it's such a fun quirk to give an NPC. If it's the right group of people in the right setting, I would probably do it. All right, let's play our music again. There we go. Saint. Nice. Background. All right, we need a D10. And then we'll need, wait, a D10? It says D10, but that's a D20 table, so two D20s. Because as a person who can do the things that they can, it would make so much sense. It really would. It really would. The intelligent assholism. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Oh, interesting. They're a pariah. They're of a generally despised ethnicity, nationality, religion, social class, or has some other scorned background. That is a good thing to note. Okay, alright. I don't have a great place to note that in my current setup, but I'll make a quick note of it. And then a second d20 for life motivations is 13. Honor. They must uphold the tradition. So they come from a great line of librarians and or information broker criminals. Possibly both. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm going to see how they phrased it. They must uphold the tradition. I mean, that's not what I think of when I think of somebody being motivated by honor, but it'll work. Okay, secrets. What secrets do we have for this person? I say maybe we roll... Oh, okay, there's a mundane secret and an unusual secret. I was going to say, let's roll 2 secrets. It gives us that already. All right, 2 more d20s, please, Della, or anybody else in chat. $15. I was gonna laugh if you got 5 or 4, shady dealer or partner in crime. But 15, what do we have for 15? Secret flame is deeply in love with someone who they can never acknowledge, like a friend, spouse, a relative, or a despised person. Ooh, as a pariah? Ooh, interesting. How did they phrase it? I like the way they phrase it better than I could paraphrase it. Okay. Oh, I have an idea for this. I want to see what our next one is, though. I want to see what our bigger secret is and see if I can tie it in somewhere. Unusual secret. Undead. The cadaver of a dead person cursed to continue their mortal existence in a decaying body. The smell of blood may trigger their uncontrollable ferocity. Unfortunately, that is one we have to re-roll since undead don't exist in my world. Well, let's go ahead and re-roll. I have an idea. I might be able to kind of swing that one, but I want to see what the next result is, just to see if it's something I like better. Because I'm on the fence with what I might be able to push as undead. It'd be iffy. So let's do a reroll on that. Damn, I was going to say that they got killed by the lover's significant other or something. I mean, I would love to go along with that. An evil spirit or several dominates their body, averse to holy symbols, subject to seizures and blasphemous actions. Okay. Honestly, I kind of like what I had for the undead side of this, because there is one form of undead that does exist in Evard, and hardly anybody knows about it. Specifically because they try very hard to make sure that nobody knows about it but them, and that is vampires. So maybe that's part of why they're a pariah. In addition to something else, maybe they're also a vampire that's trying to, you know, not be a vampire. Just trying to hide out and do their own thing. I think I like that better than possessed, because I think possessed could be fun. I just don't know what I could do with it moving forward, or how I could tie that into what we have already. I don't know. But what do y'all think? Possession ties into having the supernatural. Oh shit, you're right. It does, doesn't it? And there is a cleric in the party. They do have a cleric that has his holy symbol on his shield. That could be interesting. Okay, I'm gonna make a note of both, and maybe we can play around with both aspects a little bit later, and we'll see which one we like more. What if there's like a djinn that possesses the body when needed? Oh, that could be. That could be. That could be. I'd have to refresh myself on the lore of the different types of djinn to kind of see what some of their motivations are, because I really only remember the Tao, which are the earth element of djinn, and their whole thing is just subjugation, which could track with why they're possessing this person, but possessing this person to just live a relatively mundane life of running a shop, even though some of it's sketchy and behind the scenes. I'm not sure why they would have an interest. It also makes sense as to why this person can translate many different languages. That is very true. That is very true. And our minority species in Summerstone is tieflings, so it wouldn't be horribly out of the ordinary to hear, what is it? Not abyssal. Whatever, like it. I don't think it's fiend or fiendish, but whatever the other one is, the inherent language of tieflings besides common. Um, that's just like the fiendish side of their heritage represented in language. So like that wouldn't be a weird one here, but it might be weird if they're a pariah from a very different society, if they can speak it like a native. Like exceptionally good at certain languages that they really have no right to be good at. Okay. All right, so we're going to come back to these and figure it out. I'm going to mull over it. Infernal, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have some secrets for our friend here. Technique. Shopkeepers can use various sales techniques. Do I have a spot to make a note of this? I certainly do not. Oh boy, that's not what I meant to do at all. Okay, I think I accidentally bumped something else that I typed. Okay, we're gonna put that there. Okay. So if that's the case, then what about a demonic possession? I'm thinking that might well be possible. I'm thinking that might well be possible. I had another thought, but we'll continue and we'll see how we feel once we finish this up. Which really, there's only one more roll left. Which, what is their sales technique? So let's roll a d20. What if it's a demon if the demon that's possessing them is looking for... Oh! Now you're onto something, Della. I mean, you were before too. So that's why they own and run the underground shop. I like that. Really, I could see that for a demon or a vampire. But yeah, it works. That's making the demon side lean heavier on the scales, I think, in my mind. That's a very good point. Upseller increases the total price by offering a more expensive variant, extra accessories, or options, which I could also see if they're selling a bunch of fake stuff. It's easier to upsell something garbage if you're Or I feel like you're more inclined to try and upsell something garbage. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Okay. I like this. I really like the shopkeeper. This is turning into somebody really fun and different than what I usually come up with. I'll just copy paste. That's faster than me typing it out by hand. It just sometimes messes with the formatting in OneNote to copy paste out of a PDF. We'll see if it does it. A little bit. Not bad though. Okay. So is there any chance you'd be willing to do VC since apparently I can't type today? Yeah, sure. I don't know that we're going to be on for a ton longer, and Steam needs to restart itself for some reason. Just usually I try and call it by like 4:30. But no, I'm good with that. We can do that for the rest. I want to finish this person, and that'll still take a little bit of deliberation, or we can just do a random generator online until we find something we like. But let me restart Steam and we'll do a VC. I don't know why I don't just do that for, you know, the general. Why did I need to restart Steam? God, Steam and Discord were the same thing in my head for a minute. Oh hey, people are talking in Discord and I totally missed it. All right, yeah. I don't know why I can't just have y'all on voice chat in Discord anyway. All right, so let's see. Can you hear me in Discord? Because I'm not hearing anything in Discord if you're talking. All right, how about now? Let me turn the music down so we can hear you. But if you're talking, Della, I cannot hear you.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, my thing decided to turn off. I am so sorry. My fingers are being really dumb, and because I'm just vibing with this and kind of going for it while you're going through it.
No, I love it. That's
like, yeah,
happy for it.
Know this. How about this?
Dude, that's what I want to happen in these streams. That's why I like doing world building as a group endeavor, as long as you're not one of my current players. So yeah.
Players, get out.
Well, I think Pez is lurking. She's probably still working, so even if she hears something she's not supposed to, she knows, and she can very effectively play the game like she doesn't know. Usually it just leads to her having more questions about what she knows ahead of before she learns it. And then she learns it in game and knows what questions she wants to ask.
That's fair.
Okay, so yeah. I'm liking our little shopkeeper here.
Yes.
So really what I have left to figure out are just their basics. Their name, their age, their species, their gender, and their pronouns. So I think that won't take a long time to figure out, but if we want to do it right, we'll want to make sure we like what we have.
As of right now, the only thing I don't care for, especially with you mentioning being a tiefling, is the body type. That doesn't necessarily track for a tiefling.
Yes, and I don't necessarily think that they are or need to be a tiefling. Just I was more thinking along the lines of if they know infernal and or abyssal. Well, abyssal definitely, but infernal it wouldn't be as big of a shock to know infernal and summerstone because there are quite a few tieflings, so it would be a language people are used to hearing. But I think it would be weird if they weren't a tiefling or a human, especially if they weren't born in Summerstone, which if they're a pariah, probably not. Um, so that would be interesting if they know Infernal strangely well.
Yeah. Well, tieflings also are fairly against humans anyway. Even though they know common,
Mm-hmm.
like they're always pretty suspicious of them, which makes sense as to why they have the bodyguard, why it
Mm-hmm.
says no humans allowed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I have that a lot of places. In Summerstone, though, there's so many of them that have been there for a while, I don't have there being quite as much of that tension, specifically in this one place. I mean, it's
Well,
still there. It's just not quite what a lot of people would be used to in a D&D setting.
yeah. Well, I mean, but if this person is also from somewhere else and they are a pariah, they could still be holding that, like, say they kind of just showed up or whatever. You know what I mean? Or they've
Mm-hmm.
been around for a little bit, but they've never let go of that whole
Yeah, that's true.
uh,
That's very true.
like disdain.
Yeah, that's fair. I like it. All right. So let's see. What do we think? I have a hard time if I don't have a pre-existing notion of what species an NPC is, which I really don't here. I have a hard time just kind of picking one. I like going with chaos and trying to randomly determine it somehow.
Well, what are your other ideas slash options for species?
Let me pull up my notes because we do have a summary of the city's demographics somewhere.
Well, and if they're also a pariah, they could have moved there from somewhere else or whatever.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
think it's just kind of based off of the other species that you have options for and how it essentially ties in, because that'll kind of determine, like, if we want to go the undead, or if you want to go the undead route, or you want to go the possession route, because tiefling and demon makes sense.